Hello and welcome. I'm Andy Jones, and today I'm going to be reacting to one of my favourite ever musical theatre performances, and that is a song called Gethsemane from the musical Jesus Christ Superstar, and it is performed in this case by the amazing Steve Balsamo. Now, Steve has been one of my vocal role models since round about 1996, when I believe he started playing the role of Jesus of Nazareth in Jesus Christ Superstar. And I remember seeing him wearing a suit and not really being able to perform as he normally would, but singing this song at some awards ceremony, I think on the BBC back in the late 90s, and just thinking, wow, I had no idea that apart from Ian Gillan anybody could hit those kind of notes. And ever since then, he's just been one of my vocal heroes, and I've been very fortunate to have the chance to speak to Steve on a few occasions in recent years, and to talk to him about these performances. And the history behind that is amazing. He was handpicked by Andrew Lloyd Webber to sing this role, and although he no longer performs as Jesus of Nazareth in the shows, and he hasn't done for a long time now, he has occasionally given individual performances of songs like Gethsemane, and this is as an example of that. It's taken from 2004, which I believe is one of the most recent performances that he's done of it, and it's from a show in the Netherlands. So let's check out Gethsemane, sung by Steve Balsamo, and the music, of course, written by Andrew Lloyd Webber, the lyrics by Tim Rice. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's do this.
If there is a way, take this cup away from me, for I don't want to taste its poison, feel it burn me. I have changed, I'm not as sure as when we started.
And with that beautiful drum fill, let's just talk about this a little bit. So you've got that very extravagant intro, which doesn't belong to the song. That's just the introduction of Steve kind of making his way to the stage for the song. And the scene is now set, you know, with the lyrics, I only want to say, which is also kind of part of the official title. It's called Gethsemane, and then in brackets, I only want to say. If there is a way, take this cup away from me, for I don't want to taste its poison and feel it burn me. He knows that he's about to be betrayed. You know, this is Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane before Judas Iscariot betrays him and turns him in. So the emotional setup's already there, and you've got this quite relaxed guitar part underneath it, but then you hear the drums kind of lead us into the next part, which builds the tension up. Okay.
We started, then I was inspired. Now I'm sad and tired. Listen, surely I've exceeded expectations. Tried for 3 years, seems like 30. Could you ask as much from any other man?
Okay, one other thing I want to mention here in the verse is how the bass line is working so well. So this song is in A sharp minor, but if you watch a guitar tab for it, it's for A minor with a capo on the first fret. So if you're playing an A minor, then the bass is basically walking down from A to G to F to E to D to C and so on. So it's going down that scale, and that's something I've always thought really interesting about the composition of the song. Okay, and in this second part of the lyrics, you then have kind of the journey of Jesus of Nazareth. You know, then I was inspired, now I'm sad and tired. And then, you know, the performative element of this is really important with it being musical theatre as well. You know, he uses this kind of listen, and it's almost like he really is talking up. So he's really performing the lyrics as well. Yeah, I've tried for 3 years, seems like 30. This will be relevant later on for a little comparison. And then, could you ask as much of any other man? And of course, we know that in the biblical story of how this went down, Jesus knew that he was going to be betrayed, so he knew what was awaiting him after this song. Okay, let's carry on.
From any other man, but if I die, see the saga through and do the things you ask of me. Let them hate me, hit me, hurt me, nail me to their tree.
Yeah, so one beautiful piece of alliteration there in the lyrics, you know, let them hate me, hit me, hurt me. Alliteration being where you kind of repeat the first sound of a word. So they hate, hit, and hurt in there. And also there's beautiful kind of long notes in but if I die. You know, wonderful control over his voice there. And you see the body language that Steve's using. You know, he's really living the role. Yeah, magnificent acting as well as singing at the same time. Okay, now it's going to get really interesting in terms of the rhythm. So just listen in for that, okay? And we'll talk about it in a minute.
And do the things you ask of me. Let them hate me, hit me, hurt me, nail me to their tree. I'd wanna know, my God. Wanna know, I'd wanna know, my God. Wanna see, I'd wanna see, my God. Wanna see, I'd wanna see, my God. Why I should die. Would I be more noticed than I never was before? But the things I've said and done matter anymore.
Okay, we're going to talk about that now because it gets really interesting there. You know, Andrew Lloyd Webber is great at just throwing little curveball rhythms into his songs, and often that's at a time. And you know, I give credit to my my student assistant Louisa for telling me this yesterday. So shout out Louisa. That it's times of these songs where it's a particularly heightened emotion. So where he kind of doesn't know necessarily how to express this heightened emotion in the normal rhythm that the song has, so he changes the rhythm, and that's what he's done here. And it took me a while to kind of figure out what exactly the rhythm is there. It was hard to kind of put my finger on it, but what's happening is that you've got 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, and that's a really interesting pattern there. And then it goes straight back to the 4/4 where he sings those longer notes again. And in a moment, it's going to go back into that that other rhythm. So I'll count along with it with my fingers, so I don't kind of talk over it. But you'll hear it again now. Here we go.
Things I've said and done matter anymore. I'd have to know, my Lord. Have to know, I'd have to know, my Lord. Have to see, I'd have to see, my Lord. Have to see, I'd have to see, my Lord. If I die, what would be my reward? If I die, what would be my reward? Have to know, my Lord. Have to know, my Lord. Why should I die?
Can we just stop and talk about that for a second? That is one of the biggest notes I know from musical theatre ever. So you've got that really interesting rhythmic part, and I have to admit I had to just stop in the middle of counting there and do a second take of that because it's really hard to count along to. I try and do things in one take, but that just couldn't happen. So there was a little kind of switch over there. But yeah, and you go out of that part into a note like that. And that was the moment in 1990, it must have been 6, where I sat there in front of the TV as a teenager and just went, because it's just unbelievably high. And there's not many vocalists, especially in the 90s, that were out there able to do that. There's probably more now that we can see hitting those kind of notes through the expansion of the internet and us hearing far more performances from around the world. But back then it wasn't accessible to hear that many people singing like that. So unbelievable. Okay, let's carry on.
Killed in vain. Show me just a little of your omnipresent brain. Show me there's a reason for you wanting me to die. Oh, you're far too keen on where and how, but not so hot on why.
Okay, and here again you have that real performative element in there, where Steve moves between singing and also kind of louder speech. So when he's kind of shouting, "Show me," you know, he's not really singing those notes, he's saying them. So he really is performing as he sings. And I just want to highlight also not only the drums that are, you know, fantastic drum playing here, but also the melody in between the vocals that sounds to me like a mixture of strings and a xylophone. I'll wind you back and listen into that a second.
Be killed in vain. Show me just a little of your omnipresent brain. Show me there's a reason for you wanting me to die. But not so hot on why. All right. I will die. Just watch me die. See how I die. See how I die.
Now, before we go back and watch that part again, because we have to, a couple of things I've got to tell you about that. So, firstly, you hear him basically speaking, singing, I'd call it, those quieter parts with this "All right, I'll die." And then you have that crescendo and also that huge jump in pitch to those, you know, to that falsetto head voice there that he's using to kind of get those really high notes out. Underneath that massive high note, the timing has changed again. It's changed into a 5/4 beat. So you'll hear the instrumental underneath it playing a figure that, you know, doesn't sound like it fits into that normal 4/4, and that's why it's in 5/4. So again, brilliant composition there by Andrew Lloyd Webber, and those strings really push through there again as well. Also, just watch Steve's body language once he's finished singing that note. He's almost shaking still. So he's really living the role. One thing I also want to mention here, because I guess this video will be seen by fans of other people who've played the role of Jesus of Nazareth, most prominently Ted Neely, because that seems to be the most ongoing comparison. I also want to mention I'm a fan of Ted Neely as well. I've been a fan of Ted Neely since he was singing backing vocals for Meatloaf as well, you know, when I was growing up listening to that, and then I discovered that he also was Jesus of Nazareth, and I've seen him perform the role live in the Netherlands, so I'm a fan of both. But Steve was just like the Jesus I grew up watching. So I'm a fan of both. I love both performances. And there are differences. And there's lots of comments on YouTube that'll tell you all about that. But one striking difference to me is that Ted, in this particular part of the song, he's playing an angrier Jesus of Nazareth. He's, you know, really angry with God for putting him in this position. Whereas at this point in the song, Steve's performance leans more, I think, towards kind of an acceptance of what's going to happen, but not so much out of anger, but more out of desperation. That's my take on it, at least. And I've never really asked Steve about that, but that's just the way I perceive it in the difference between the two performances. But I would say both of them equally wonderful, equally valid in terms of the emotions that they are expressing through the character of Jesus. I don't see there being a better performance of the two. Ted Neely was playing the role in a 1970s rock opera, whereas Steve, is playing more like the London West End show-stopping performance. And that's two quite different settings. And I would say, both of them play this role equally wonderfully. So if you're here to kind of say, but Ted, I agree, Ted's fantastic, and so are many other people who've played the role. But the one I always end up coming back to, just because he was kind of the Jesus of my teenage years, that would be Steve. But huge respect for both of them. Okay, let's see where this goes.
All right. I will die. Just watch me die. See how I die. See how I was inspired. Now I'm sad and tired. After all, I've tried for 3 years. Seems like 90. Why then am I scared to finish what I started? What you started. I didn't start it.
Okay, and we'll come back into this final part in a minute. But again, I just want to highlight how effectively Steve moves between singing and speaking. At the earlier part of that, he was almost whispering some of the lyrics. And then he goes on to kind of elevate the emotional level further by crescendoing a little bit into this part that's coming now. Also lyrically, really interesting. Now he's singing, after all, I tried for 3 years, seems like 90 rather than the 30 that you have earlier in the song. And that question there, why then am I scared to finish what I started? Almost like, he's known this whole time that this was what was going to happen. But then he turns it around and says, what you started to God, I didn't start it. Which is really interesting because Jesus being part of the Holy Trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, it's really interesting to see the conflict then within the two parts of that Trinity. So, fantastic lyric writing by Tim Rice there. Everything's really coming together here. Okay, and also the body language still, shaking. He's wiping what could be something from his mouth there, that he's got so emotional. You also see some moisture moving down his face. I can't be sure whether that's sweat or tears. I lean towards tears because you can almost hear it in his voice. And it's incredibly hard to sing and cry at the same time. And it's not happened to me often that I've ever ended up doing that. I remember one concert where I sang in memory of a friend who'd passed away recently beforehand, and I had to take a moment kind of in the musical interlude and come back, and it's really hard to get out those notes while crying, because it affects, you know, your nose, it affects your kind of your composition here, and it makes it really hard to push out those vocals. So, I mean, we'll see what impact that has now. Let's check out this last part.
What I started, what you started, I didn't start it. God, I will, it's hard, but you hold every card. I will drink your cup of poison, nail me to your cross and break me, bleed me, beat me, kill me, take me now before I change my mind. Now before
Wow. Not the first time I've heard this performance by a long way. I've heard this a lot of times, and still every time it gets me. Firstly, you know, in that last kind of chorus part, he's singing those beautiful, you know, chest voice notes, and he moves so easily between his vocal registers. You know, when he sings "Nail me to your cross and break me," he just moves right up there into the falsetto with, it seems effortless. Also lyrically, you know, we have another alliteration there. Bleed me, beat me, kill me, you know, so break me, bleed me, beat me, and then kill me. So you have those three B's in there. And then, you know, that last little lyric there, you know, take me now before I change my mind. And there's different performances of Gethsemane. Some have that lyric just once, and in this particular one with Steve, we have the added second one, the now before I change my mind, at the very end. And again, those last notes there by the orchestra, really interesting kind of outro notes there to make it sound a little bit strange, uncomfortable, dramatic. And of course, we know what's going to follow this song. It's the betrayal by Judas. Really emotional end to the song, but also just in general, a hugely emotional performance of the song by Steve. So, like I say, pretty much my favourite performance from any musical theatre song. Just astoundingly good, acting and singing at the same time. The orchestra was astonishingly good, and as always, you know, the music by Andrew Lloyd Webber and the lyrics by Tim Rice really hit the mark with this one. There's a reason why, you know, it's maintained for what has it been now, 40 something years as a massively successful global musical. So yeah, I think that's all I want to say. So let's just go and have a quick chat to end this. Okay, now we've all composed ourselves. It was such fun to look at this song from a review perspective. I sometimes fear that if I take songs that I really, really like and then review them, it takes away a little bit of the magic of just enjoying the song. But with this, it's been really interesting for me to break it down a little bit and just check out those alternative time signatures that have been happening there, also the performative element, the body language. There's been a lot to look at there. So this was my first kind of adventure in reviewing musical theatre. If you enjoyed that review and you'd like to see more of these with further songs from musical theatre, please don't be afraid to kind of stick some suggestions in the comments there. Particularly, don't be afraid to subscribe to the channel, because of course that will continue to motivate me to carry on with this channel. I'm just shy of 500 subscribers on the channel, and I really want to hit that 1,000 mark. So if you enjoyed it, please do subscribe to the channel so you'll see when more similar reviews come out. And finally, don't forget, my social media links are all up here on the screen now. Please do go ahead and connect with me there too, because that will put you in touch with my own music a little bit as well, so you can see whether that also interests you. For now though, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.